There's nothing like the heartbreak of losing in March Madness. The tournament moves so quickly that it can feel like a roller coaster of ecstasy, sadness, end-of-the-bench holdback guys, and buzzer-beating prayers. It's a dizzying and terrifying experience that makes you want to lean your head out and throw up, or get back in line and go again. There's something about the college game that resonates in a way the NBA can, and it leads to some of the toughest losses. For the losing side, those games evoke a stinging kind of pain. But this video is not about that kind of pain. This video is about the games that were over in the opening moments instead of the last. Not the games that sting, but the games that deliver blunt force trauma. And today we're going to learn about the biggest blowouts in NCAA tournament history coming up right after this. Today we're talking about blowouts because for every Cinderella that gets to the ball right at midnight, there's another one that gets hammered and throws up in the Uber on the way there. Let's count down the 15 biggest blowouts in the history of the NCAA tournament. It's hard to imagine a team getting throttled by 43 points before there was even a 3-point line, but that's what Villanova was able to do to Penn, shooting the lights out at 62% and sending the Quakers back to making oatmeal. Nova was feeling good about themselves until they met Bill Walton and the UCLA Bruins, who were essentially the warriors of college basketball. Yeah, that must have been fun back then. The Kentucky Wildcats were demolishing Rider so thoroughly that then head coach Rick Pitino had to tell them to take their foot off the gas at halftime when they were already up by 39. Tony Delk and Jamal Mashburn resisted the urge to put up triple digits and sent Rider riding back the way they came with a 44-point beatdown in tow. A month later, they sent a bill to collect the rest for the colonoscopy they gave them. DePaul was the hammer and Eastern Kentucky was the nail. Even though DePaul was the lower seed, they proved that sometimes David can beat Goliath, and sometimes David can outright humiliate Goliath, and sometimes David can take a piss on Goliath when he's knocked out. Even with future NBA star Buddy Hield manning the perimeter, Oklahoma was powerless to a Villanova onslaught that wasn't letting anything get in the way of an eventual title run that culminated in Chris Jenkins' 3 at the buzzer. Hield scored just 9 points in 36 minutes while future Laker Josh Hart added 23 for Villanova. If we learned anything, it's that 4 future NBA players are better than 1, and that Buddy Hield's teeth alone were not good enough. Before one-seeded North Carolina would go on to defeat the Fab Five in the championship, they put a 45-point beating on Rhode Island. 4 different Tar Heels scored in the double digits, and a 21-2 run in the middle of the game made sure that Rhode Island got rammed like their namesake. Rick Pitino's Wildcats show up on this list again, and this time they didn't hold back from scoring well over 100 and dropping a 46-point margin of victory on poor Mount St. Mary's. With 4 future NBA players on the floor, including future Celtic Antoine Walker, the Wildcats entered Mount St. Mary's colon like an endoscope. What is my fascination with colons? It's hard to tell whether the biggest beating in the history of the Palace was Ron Artest and Steven Jackson or what VCU did to Akron in 2013. The Rams' Troy Daniels scored 23 and Akron floundered from behind the arc, hitting just 7% of their threes in a brickfest that would make the Dutch toy manufacturers proud. If you weren't aware that Winthrop was a real university, you're not alone. In the opening round in 2002, Duke played like they were going against air, cruising to a 47-point win behind Jay Williams, Carlos Boozer, Dante Jones, and Mike Dunleavy Jr. Boozer, Dunleavy, and Jones scored a combined 56 and beat Winthrop so badly they had to change their name to Lost Throat. Heyo! 1964, back when scoring 100 was a rarity and dribbling with your left hand was considered witchcraft, Duke put together a 47-point shellacking on UConn that probably made them want to quit men's basketball altogether and put all their resources into their women's team. Back in 2013, the Montana Grizzlies got absolutely mauled by the Orange to the tune of 47 points. Not since the Revenant has a Grizzly Bear faced stiffer competition than a roster stuffed with talent like Michael Carter-Williams and Jeremy Grant coming off the bench. Bear meat was served in the Great Hall after the game. Under the wisdom of the great John Wooden, UCLA was a powerhouse in the 60s and the 70s. Wooden prepared so meticulously that he said he would have been able to watch the game from the stands after the tip-off without any drop-off from his team. They proved that in 1967 with a 49-point whipping of Wyoming. Some guy named Lou Alcindor put up 29 points and 10 boards, and UCLA made short order of the Cowboys. And to be fair to Wyoming, they made short order of everyone en route to a 30-0 UConn women-esque season. Syracuse putting up 101 on Brown and cruising to a 49-point margin of victory is the biggest orange and brown disaster since Johnny Manziel wore a Cleveland uniform. Hughes boasted 4 future pros that were able to lock down Brown's Ivy Leaguers and hold them to just 25% shooting. Unfortunately for the Orangemen, they ran into David Robinson and Navy in the next round, cutting their run short but ultimately proving that Navy can be just as good on land. With Hashim Thabit on the glass and a young Kemba Walker in the backcourt, 16th seed Chattanooga didn't have a chance of stopping UConn from rolling to a 56-point walloping of the school that gave us Terrell Owens.
It's my quarterback.
Even without their head coach Jim Calhoun, who was in the hospital, UConn had 3 players score over 20 points and 5 total in double figures. Thabit didn't have much of a pulse in the NBA. Kemba Walker is still an all-star, and 56 points still stands as the 3rd largest margin of victory in the history of the tournament. The only thing Prairie View got a good look at during this game was the truth, future Hall of Famer Paul Pierce, and to a lesser extent, Rafe LaFrentz. Prairie View shot just 23% from the field and was out-rebounded 59-24. Despite putting the hurt on the Panthers of the Prairie, I don't think they're indigenous. Kansas had a great shot at the title, ruined by Katino Mobley and the Rhode Island Rams in the very next round, ruining a ton of brackets. And now for the largest blowout in NCAA tournament history. $69 points. Nice.
69, dudes!
Back when Sister Jean was in her prime, hey fellas, she's single, the Ramblers had 2 players record double-doubles as Tennessee Tech simply couldn't score, shooting 18 for 82 from the field. They were probably lucky to get to 42. To be fair to their offense, their defense was equally atrocious. Just about everyone on the Ramblers roster eclipsed 10 points, and the Loyola layup line squeezed out 111 back in the days when it was as rare as a communist working in Hollywood. Loyola went on to win the championship, but they'll always be known and loved for the time they 69 Tennessee Tech in 63. What else has Loyola done? I mean, really? There you have it, the 15 biggest blowouts in the history of March Madness. Cue the crying kids in the stands. Cue the girl with the tears in her eyes valiantly trying to play the piccolo as Villanova gets upset, and cue sad Bill Murray just after Xavier gets axed. Losing is a part of the NCAA tournament. It happens to 63 of the 64 teams in the bracket every single year. And all you can hope is that your team doesn't dethrone any of the biggest losers on this list, because you know that will also end up in the triggering video, which is coming out soon. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. It's fun to laugh at others, but it's also fun to win money. So head on over to MyBookie from the link below and enter in my code POINTS50 for a 50% cash bonus on your first deposit. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, and of course subscribe for more interesting videos on sports. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to the end of this video.